Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Notre Dame Daily. Hope all's well. I'm Pete Mulroy, and to no surprise as we begin today, a handful of Irish players once again in the spotlight as the 2026-27 campaign nears, with various players continuing to earn meaningful preseason regard, including a massive trio in South Bend: Leonard Moore, Tay Johnson, and of course Kingston Filiamu Asa, named 2026-27 preseason All-Americans by the AP. For Moore, it's no surprise. I mean, name a list that this young man hasn't been on this preseason, or even going back to last preseason and then following the end of the campaign. Leonard Moore, truly the definition of an All-American player as the top cornerback in the nation heading into this season. Tay Johnson, we talked about him the other day in our player spotlight, has really burst onto the scene a year ago. One of those true playmaking safeties because he's got that incredible frame, but the athleticism and the mobility to go north and south and sideline to sideline with the best of them, and his ball skills may be at the top from a safety perspective in America. Also playing alongside Captain Don Schuler, of course, doesn't hurt. And then KVA cleared for contact over this past weekend. We got into that on yesterday's program. When healthy, when right, widely regarded as being the nation's top linebacker. When you pair him with guys like Drake Bowen, and you have support from the likes of Jaden Osbury, Jalen Sneed, Madden Faramo, the list goes on, right? In South Bend, it seems defensively, you really start to see just how good the individual talent is, because that individual talent collectively groups together to make a cohesive area of the depth chart. Like Notre Dame's linebacking core can make the argument, maybe along with Texas Tech, they're the best linebacking unit in America. With guys like Tay Johnson and Leonard Moore, Notre Dame probably has the best secondary in America, and you know what has been reworked up front on Notre Dame's defensive line. So no real surprise here that this trio of Moore, Johnson, and KVA earning some very, very significant love from the Associated Press, again named preseason All-Americans. Leonard Moore, for his part, was named a first-team preseason All-American. And then there was more here, no pun intended, for Leonard Moore, who, along with CJ Carr, made another list just a couple of days ago, Player of the Year watch list for the 2026 Walter Camp Award. And this is the fourth oldest award in collegiate football, given annually to the best outright player in college football. So to see CJ Carr on there, who of course was a first-year starter in South Bend last year, starting 12 games, playing well, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks. Obviously, sky the limit for number 13 in South Bend this go-round. And he also gives, for the first time in his head coaching career, Marcus Freeman the same quarterback for the second consecutive campaign, which is obviously significant. And then Leonard Moore, obviously, Walter Camp preseason All-America, and we just talked about an AP preseason first-teamer on their All-American list, so it continues to rack up for Leonard Moore. But when you talk about C.J. Carr, you know, there's a reason the young man is among the Heisman favorites, and according to many, even the betting outrights, maybe you're an MGM or DraftKings, Kalshi, whatever it might be, C.J. Carr, the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy this upcoming season, you know, sort of irrelevant because you know he's in line for a big campaign regardless. And if that leads to a Heisman Trophy, great. But obviously the ultimate prize for Carr and company is to hoist that national title trophy at season's end. But C.J. Carr, as good as they come. You saw in numerous spots last year, the big-time throws, standing in the pocket, physicality, not afraid to tuck it when he needs to. Obviously, it's not his go-to like it was for Riley Leonard or to some extent even a Sam Hartman. But C.J. Carr can take off when he needs to move those chains. He's physical. He's confident. The football IQ obviously there, as is his leadership capability. So the complete package under center for the second straight season for Notre Dame. And then Leonard Moore, the best at his position, probably the best all-around defender in college football, right? We've had that conversation in the past for good reason. And you would probably think this might be Leonard Moore's final go-round in South Bend, bona fide first-round pick moving forward, right, as we go into next April's NFL draft. But really big things on the horizon here for Leonard Moore. Same for Tay Johnson. So it's not surprising to see them continuing to garner this attention and pop up on these different preseason lists. And now we'll transition into today's player spotlight, which brings us to Christian Gray, someone we've spoken a lot about in the past and someone who is obviously going to play a big role in this Notre Dame secondary, not just because he's the type of young man who can go out and make plays, but because he brings, with his deep experience, veteran leadership and an arsenal of capability. So when you look at number 29, again, his senior campaign, 37 games to this point in his Notre Dame career, 25 starts through those first 3 years. Made 15 starts in 2024, which was a biggie because that was the year he was a crucial part in Notre Dame making that college football playoff run. So you go through the regular season and into the playoffs, and you had Christian Gray there. And I know people like to bring up some struggling moments that he had there, including in the national title game. But Christian Gray has been a rock. He's been as solid as they come from a toughness perspective for this Notre Dame football team. And this year, absorbing and embracing a new role as he goes from that field corner spot opposite Leonard Moore into the nickel role. So the belief here is, and it makes loads of sense, and it's something I've spoken about on NDD numerous times. I think with Christian Gray known to have the ability to go up and make the big play, that USC game a couple of years ago stands out, and we've seen, obviously had some nice moments last season throughout the campaign. He can make the offense of the opposition pay with his ball skills, right? He'll take chances, obviously. But again, now going into this new role in the nickel, what this does for Notre Dame with DJ McKinney coming in January via the transfer portal from Colorado, that puts another veteran playmaker able to start him opposite Leonard Moore while still keeping Christian Gray on the field in a nickel capacity. And we will see, obviously, to a large degree, Dallas Golden probably operating in the same capacity there. So Dallas Golden going into year 2 after a very strong rookie campaign last year. There's a lot working for this Notre Dame secondary. We've talked about Tay Johnson, Don Schuler a lot, the best starting safety duo in the country. We've said tons on Leonard Moore. Now he's expected to have McKinney opposite him. But the idea of having Christian Gray, who's got 37 games and 25 starts under his belt in that nickel role, with his overall skill set, sure. Does the responsibility change here for Christian Gray, now primarily going to work out of the nickel? Yeah, no longer do you just have to focus on the opposition's wide receivers and tight ends. Of course you have to focus on their pass catchers, right? We know that, but you've got to know what the linemen up front are doing and what the running backs are doing now as well. And when you have someone who's got this veteran capability, like a Christian Gray, you really can't get much better in that capacity, in that spot on the football field than 2-9, right? 63 tackles in his career, 46 of which were solo, a bunch of pass defenses, pass breakups, 6 picks in his career, a score, and multiple tackles for loss. He gets after it, okay? Sure, there's been frustrating moments, but give me a guy who hasn't had a frustrating moment or moments throughout their career in any level of sport, and I'll call you crazy, right? We're fortunate to have for another season Christian Gray back there, and the fact that he's embraced this new role just makes the Notre Dame defense, folks, quite honestly, undeniably even more lethal than it already would have been. So to have him there working in that capacity while still keeping Moore and the newly inserted DJ McKinney, you think about guys like Jaden Sanders, Dallas Golden, Ethan Long, Luke Talich. You've got an abundance of talent back there along with Johnson and Schuler. This is a big deal to have Christian Gray in this new role, something I fully believe, and I think many of you agree with me, he will excel in. To make this more of a lockdown Notre Dame secondary for Aaron Henry and Chris Ash. It's exciting, and again, it is a monster deal, and incredibly fortunate is this Notre Dame team to have that overall. And just to wrap up today's show, and you probably saw this, Notre Dame coaching staff, Marcus Freeman making a new hire, Wes Yurdy as director of scouting. Yurdy comes over most recently last year from Ole Miss, where he was the coordinator for the player personnel department. Prior to that, worked at Cal Poly as their director of football operations. You see an image of your screen there in a Memphis polo, was on their staff a couple of years ago. He's a Memphis alum, was a wide receiver on their football team years back. So Yurdy comes in to be Notre Dame's new director of scouting. And we what more can we say about what Notre Dame has done on the recruiting trail, right? Traditional high school recruiting and in the portal. So now you have another addition of a young coach who comes over from SEC country. It's another good one for Marcus Freeman, naming and bringing aboard Wes Yurdy to be the new director of scouting for the Notre Dame football program, effective immediately. On that note, I'll see you all tomorrow. We're going to wrap up some of these player profiles, then we'll start getting into the schedule, previewing Notre Dame's opponents, including some of the big-time players Notre Dame will see for each of their 12 regular season opponents. For now, have a great rest of your Wednesday. See you all tomorrow, and as always, go Irish.